Many people believe that it's Maja Ganszyniec, a graduate of the London College of Art, that's won Poland a front row seat in the design and sustainability world alongside the standard entries of Italy and Sweden. She's a successful product designer for IKEA and cites her starting point for design as one of her successes. There are so many objects in the world already. Why make another one? Why indeed? Let's meet Maja. You've flown in from Poland this morning?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, how long is it? A 2-hour flight?
Yeah, 2.5. Not that bad.
You superstar. We typically asked our guests a little bit of an icebreaker. Tell us something about you that we wouldn't typically associate with you.
Actually, it's a funny one. I've been thinking about this question like on my way here, and I've realized that we're located right next to Borough Market.
Yes.
And actually, during my time in college at RCA, I don't know how many years ago, I used to work at Borough Market during the weekends,
What did
as
you
a side
do?
job. Yeah, I was just selling super delicious food. And actually, I had many friends from different times, different life that were working there. So I remember my college food menu, my college menu, quite fancy. Was really really nice to be outside and being able to sample all that delicious food. It was really lovely time.
So from a market stall
Yes.
in Borough Market to a product designer. How's that come about?
The Borough Market was actually more of a hobby, but I was always pursuing design path. That was something that really is my passion, I think. And
What's it born from?
I mean, it's a interesting question. I think I was always drawn into just manual work. I really enjoyed making things since I was really a little girl.
For example, what would you make?
From little figurines and just decorating little items, just playing with materials all the time, like little killims, like what kids do. As a regular part of their development, I guess, turned into a passion and then into a profession.
Mm. And what's interesting is that you have become quite the authority on product design, but with a particular focus being sustainability.
Yes.
And what I was grateful for you to share with me was when I was actually putting on my makeup, we were talking about, embodying the values. And we were talking about how you don't like to put chemicals near your body. And you're quite pure with your ingredients that you actually use on yourself.
Yeah, I'm 40 and I have some gray hair and I expect them to be more
Lovely.
soon. But then I thought, I've never dyed my hair. So why should I start being 40? I mean, this is just the society trying to, push us into little, nice, quiet boxes. I don't really think we should follow the rules without, second thoughts on certain things. Like if you look at food industry, I mean, there's been a revolution about 10, 15 years ago. Yeah, we all started to read the labels of stuff that we want to buy. We want to make sure that we're not going to eat anything that is artificial. But yet, for cultural reasons, we put a ton of chemicals on our heads. It's not really, there's no logic in it. So I think, okay, we all know right now that we should eat healthy. I think in cosmetics, because these things are also so close to our bodies, I think this is coming. I mean, more and more women are saying no to just dyeing their hair. And I think the same revolution is happening a little bit slower and maybe more quiet in furniture business, because these are items that we surround ourselves with. And we very often don't think how they're made. Are they healthy? Are they safe? Especially actually in Great Britain. This is a very particular situation as well.
Who's leading this disruption in the market? Is it the consumer or is it the designers?
Actually, I think it's, all of the designers and producers are also consumers. And I think if you gain certain level of knowledge, for example, on food. And I've been working with food, I mean, as a passion or as a side passion, I would say. Also professionally, I've been designing labels and brands for food for a couple of years. Actually, we got a couple of red dots in communication for that, but that was another life.
What's the red dot?
It's a design award that is.
Congratulations!
But we kind of never got it in furniture, but we got 4 in food.
For example,
food
what did you get a red dot for?
I mean that was for Polish market, but we were designing new. Okay, example. There is a producer, there is a food industry. You have a producer of fresh soups. And they came to us and say, we have this new fantastic product. It's super healthy. It's this creamy soup, no additional chemicals in it, no preservatives, no colorants. How do we name it? How do we sell it? So we were like coming up with strategy on how to name it, how to design it so that the packaging is communicated, this is a healthy product. There are no preservatives because there are certain codes of naturalness. So, for example, if you stand in a supermarket, I think food industry is a brilliant example. You stand in a supermarket in front of a shelf. You have a couple of seconds to pick this soup or this jam or that jam, or this butter or that butter. So the producer has to very clearly communicate what stands behind what is inside of a jar or what's inside of the box.
And how would you typically differentiate?
So, for example, if you have something that is, not that healthy, but for example, super fun. If you have something super sweet or super sour, you have this tastes on steroids, more or less. You're going to have a bright colors, very sharp lettering.
Red, yellow.
Yes, shouting, shiny, glossy, glitter, something that is a promising and, explosion of taste. But if you're designing a packaging for butter that is, super natural, then you're not going to go for super crazy colors. Then you want to use, and this is what producers do. For example, fonts that are not that sharp, handwritten, or paper, like wrapping paper. These are all codes of signs of that say I'm natural. I was made by hand. Of course, most of things that we find on the shelves in supermarket are not made by hand, but this is a promise of something that has been, cooked at home, or, some stuff that you find in the countryside if you go for a holiday. So, design is culture. There's so many cultural codes that we navigate through without even knowing, but we all, even unconsciously, know what is natural, what is not, when we see a product on the shelf.
So I'm curious about how this translates then to your passion for creating natural furniture. So,
and that's the trick. I think, in order to have this discussion, we have to think again about language. Some years ago, we were talking about ecological products and furniture, eco-furniture, and we associated ecological with natural materials.
Yes,
so
wood.
We would say, wood. And we thought, okay, that was an easy world. Everything was simple. Wood was good. Plastic was bad.
Yeah.
Well, that was easy. But things have changed, and we've moved into sustainable design, sustainable world. When we realized that, natural materials are not endless, and we have to treat natural materials with respect and sources respectfully. And that's sustainability. It's finding a balance between what is natural, what is not, but what is better in longer perspective. And that's how we landed today. And I think it's very important to talk about circularity today. That's it's not a new thing, but it's a new thing in communication, and we finally start talking about it loud.
When you talk about what is better long term, so are you talking about the longevity of the furniture?
As well, today everything is redefining itself so quickly.
Yeah.
I think every 2 years before, every 2 years, I had to sit down and think, okay, is it still valid what I think? Am I still right saying what I was saying 2 years ago? And I feel that today these changes and redefinitions are happening more and more often. So, of course, if a product is well designed and long lasting and produced in a responsible manner, product that is healthy for the user, because there's so much chemical in textiles, for example. If you think fire retardancy, it's like pieces, sofas and upholstered chairs are soaked in chemicals. But we're not there yet to talk about it in public, because this is like a secret knowledge that nobody has. It's not food that you put, inside your body. Like a law regulation are not there yet. So,
and these chemicals that the products are soaked in,
they're harmful.
They're toxic.
Yes, but we don't really know about it. And one of the reasons why I keep talking about it is so that people start realizing that what you surround yourself with can influence, not your well-being, but also your health, especially if you have young kids. Yeah. If you buy a sofa, for example, let's talk about home market. If you buy a sofa from an, unknown producer, it's been produced somewhere, maybe Asia, but we don't really know where. We don't know what textile is that. The formaldehyde, which is quite a toxic compound, like it's the emission of it. We associate emission of formaldehyde with chipboard, which has really not positive PR as a material. But we would never think that formaldehyde emission can happen in a sofa.
What should we be looking out for then? When we look at the ingredients or what our chairs are made of, what our furniture is made, what should we be looking to avoid?
So this is the situation where, unfortunately, legal reality is not helping us. Food producers are obliged by law to list absolutely every ingredient in the right order, in the right manner. So the law is really strict in terms of food. There are no regulations in terms of the ingredients of a furniture. So it's only up to a producer to be open and transparent with how the product is made, what is it made of, what textiles are there, so on and so forth. There are certificates that we can look for. But again, there's so much greenwashing.
So what is greenwashing?
Greenwashing, of course, we're more aware of what things that surround us are made of. And producers are aware of it, and they try to prove or promise that what they sell to you is healthy and responsibly produced. But in fact, we have very little knowledge about the, backstage of production, especially when it comes to textiles. So, for example, there is this huge new thing, textiles especially, but it's also in fashion, not only upholstery, textiles that are made out of fishing nets and ocean waste, right? The plastic that we find in the ocean. And of course, everyone says, oh, that's great. I can have a T-shirt or a bag that is made out of recycled ocean trash. What is sad is that the definition or legal definition of such textiles is very, let's say, flexible. You only need about 10% of such ingredient to call it ocean waste-based textiles.
So people are paying lip service to the notion of sustainability.
Yes. And I mean, and it's like we are at this point in a very, very large and complex process. I mean, the only thing that we can do is ask questions and demand, as customers, demand the answers. That's the only way to change the situation.
But I know that in your studio, things are not going to get past you. No. Tell me what processes you have in place to ensure that the products that you create are satisfying your sustainable ethos.
I think it's important to talk about the scale of production, because what you do on a really, really small scale is basically harmless. It's not going to make any difference if you think about the global situation. So if you have a little brand or if you're a maker, I mean, you can do basically whatever, and there's going to be no harm. But if you are a mass producer,
like
IKEA, or like many other smaller in comparison to IKEA, but still significant producers, you really have to think about every single decision, every single material, and the construction, because the impact, even a small thing multiplied by thousands, is going to be really impactful. So, yes.
Tell me about some of the materials that you're using to create furniture that are on your hot list, that you're loving, that you're enjoying.
Oh my God, as I said before, wood was good, plastic was bad. Right now, I would say it really depends on the context. So I still love wood, but I think wood is a new gold, like oak is the new gold. We should really treat wood not as something that is, for granted, because it's not.
Tell me about the price. We were talking before this podcast about the price of wood.
Yes. For example, I run a small brand that produces wooden furniture, and the cubic meter of solid oak in January 2020, costed about 120 euro. 2 years later, so after pandemic, the price of the same cubic meter of oak was about 1,000 euro. And 2 months later, in March 22, it was over 2,000 euro for same material. And we talk about wood as a renewable material, but if we think how long does the oak tree grow, it's 100 years before you can really cut it. So this is a very slowly renewable material. So I think the perception of that material has to change, because we already have huge problems in sourcing oak because it's so popular, especially in, Scandinavia and Baltic area. But I think huge part of Europe, oak is the most natural material. I mean, we were building houses out of it. We were building traditionally furniture out of it. All the floors are made of oak because this is a hard, durable, and long-lasting and beautiful material. And we know it, we like it, we want more of it. So with the trend that we observed in food, when we turned towards natural food, we turned into natural material, which is great, but we don't have enough. Mm-hmm. There is the awareness of design and the need of new beautiful furniture is rising. Instagram is for free. Everybody's got Instagram. So you observe the trends, and more people observe the trends. Not only people that were traveling, to, a fair in Milan or New York to see the new trends. No, everyone has trends in their phone wherever they live. So there is rising demand among customers for natural materials. So there is no more natural material.
So for you, if you were incorporating wood into a design, you would make the wood be seen as opposed to
exactly
inserting it in the framework.
Yes, it would be visible, because then we can take care of it. We can, once it wears off, we can renew it, paint it, or oil it again. We can take care of it. And then a well-designed, very stable, and beautifully designed piece of furniture is going to last 80 years, 100 years. It's only the matter of, is it going to go really out of style? But if you look at the chairs from the 50s and 60s, mm-hmm. like, the classic kitchen stools, kitchen chairs, I mean, they're so beautiful still today. So the aesthetic can be long-lasting. The material can be long-lasting. And it's great in certain cases. But if you think about how long-lasting is plastic and other artificial materials, this can be problematic. Because if a chair, gets broken and you put it into trash, it's not like wood. It's not going to just disappear with time. It's going to stay for thousands of years. And this is the situation where we say that the context is so important.
Explain what you mean.
I would say a couple of years ago, plastic is bad. It was simple. I would say today, sometimes plastic is the best what we can go for. So I'll give an example. We've just launched 2 months ago, or a couple of weeks ago, a new chair for Profim, part of Flock Group.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Oh my God, that was fun. So we were actually about to develop a new meeting chair. A company, you have a running business, you need a new product. And we thought we shouldn't make just another chair. I mean, we really have something to sit on in the world. It's like we have so much stuff in the world.
We have already so many options.
I mean, if you think about Marie Kondo, you have world bestsellers that teach you how to get rid of the stuff that you have in your home. I mean, we're overloaded. So we're not dealing with the problem of lack. We're dealing with the problem of too many things. So if you introduce something new,
it needs to spark joy.
As well. But it would be good to try to break old habits. Because, for example, we're sitting on an upholstered chair right now.
Sorry about that.
No. It's okay. I mean, not the first, not the last time in the world, but in my life. But usually or traditionally, how these types of chair are made. So, for example, let's take a school chair type. You have metal frame, which is okay. Then you have upholstered seat and upholstered backrest. How do you construct these two? You take a piece of plywood, glue board, then you glue polyurethane foam on top of that, and then you glue on top of that a textile. You wrap it tightly around it, and then you staple it with hundreds of staples all around to keep the textile in place. And it's great. It's been done like this for, since, let's say, after the Second World War, when the polyurethane foam gained popularity. But the problem is that we've been producing furniture in this manner for, let's say, 80 years. And once this piece of furniture gets broken, you can't really take the materials apart. Because how are you gonna how you're gonna prepare this type of furniture to recycling? It's almost impossible. Because to recycle, you have to recycle separate materials. Wood is not recyclable. You can only burn it or grind it turn it into chipboard. That's the best you can do. Polyurethane foam, you can't really do anything with it. You can grind it into lower comfort type of foam. But in order to do that, it has to be clean. It cannot be soaked with glue. And then you have textile. But to take these three materials apart, you have to take out 100 of staples. I mean, who on earth does that?
So what's interesting is not only are you designing a product, you're actually future-proofing it as well. You're actually considering what's going to happen to it in the future.
We have to.
Well, you have to. I mean, that's commendable. That's your ethos for your studio.
We have called the new chair Normal because it looks like a normal chair, but it's a new norm. It's a new norm of production.
Tell me about it.
So we decided to, change the game.
So it's the Tesla of the chairs.
Oh my God. I don't know if I like Tesla, but let's, you can use it, but that's another one. But instead of wood component, the plywood base for the seat, we thought, okay, we don't want to use any natural material unless we really, really have to. We're not going to show it. So we thought, no, let's not use it. So instead of plywood, we created with fantastic development team in Profim, we've developed special construction that is made out of 100% recycled polypropylene, which is plastic. And this plastic has been already in use. So it has been a product some time ago, then was recycled, and we took that material back. So we haven't sourced anything that is a natural material. We took something that already existed and turned it into a new product. So we have this construction out of recycled polypropylene. And then we had to use polyurethane foam. Because, you know, when you think about comfort of a sofa or of a chair that we sit on, everything that is soft and upholstered is made out of polyurethane. I mean, before you had, you know, springs. You remember the sofas from 20s, very different comfort type. So we're all used to this like soft, foamy comfort. But we decided to use super thin layer of it and to use absolute minimum. So we have the comfort more of a futon than an, you know, American hotel bed. So we have this like firm softness, and the foam is actually just placed on top. There are quite smart locking points, and that's it. It's not glued one to another, which means you can later separate it with absolutely no. It just comes apart. But then, how do we keep a textile on top? Because we decided to not use glue and to not use staples, because these are two things that actually enable the recycling. So how to explain it without a product? You know, the ironing board.
Yes.
There is a textile that is wrapped on top and has a little string that you pull to fix it. So that's, let's say that's this principle, but taken into, you know, a state of art and industry level. So that's how all these elements are, you know, held together. Which means that at the end of life cycle, when we, you know, get bored or it's really wore down, we can take scissors, we can dismantle, you know, just push in a little bit with the scissors. You can take two parts apart. You can cut through the string, and then it all comes loose. And then you can recycle the textile, recycle the polyurethane that is clean into a different grade, and you can recycle the polypropylene. And actually we can make, again, the same chair with the same material. Very smart.
And I'm curious, for some, the belief might be that with the progressive nature of the manufacturing processes and the components you're using, there's cost implications. Mm-hmm. What would you say to that?
This is a really important issue as well, because like we're at the beginning of a new road, I would say. We have to change the game. We have to change the production norms. But this is not this is not cheap. This is quite an expensive one. So I would say this type of new construction requires high level of industrialization, which comes with a significant cost. Which means that only if you're at today, let's say, if you're a mass producer, you can have the money to actually implement and to go through this like 2 or 3 years process of development, which is really costly. If you're a tiny player, you probably won't have enough resources to come up with a new technology. But then responsibility of a big player is greater, and the impact that the tiny player has is really not going to change much. So I think, again, this is a process. This is a solution that we came up with. And we are very transparent with how we made this furniture. We show pictures of every part. We share the knowledge. because we believe that only by sharing our experience, we can actually have this like creative dialogue with our competitors. And I'm sure that our competitors are working on, maybe some different solutions, but with the same goal, more sustainable and circular production.
And I wonder how this new process and this new product is received by the consumer. Is there an awareness or an appetite?
It depends on the market.
Geographical market?
A little bit. But also, the division country by country borders, this is a little bit, again, thing of a past. So I think in every country, you have an audience that is seeking sustainable products and circular furniture. And there is more traditional, more conservative audience that, let's say sustainability is not their, is not something that's most important for them. But I believe that this market, this aware part of the market is growing. So before, this is really interesting. We're just a couple of weeks after the launch, and we're getting so much interest. And the thing is, we could never measure the potential of that product because we have never been on this market before.
It's new territory.
So we also decided to create every new product in this way. So the second project that I wanted to talk about is a new fantastic project that we did with Pearson and Lloyd, which is a Revo seating system. It's also a product that has been designed for office spaces. There's so much changing in office space today. But we wanted to check and to challenge ourselves how to make a really bulky seating system, bulky furniture in a circular way or sustainable way. Because if we talk about chair, we have tiny elements, there are very thin sections. It's like a small scale. And we thought, okay, we know how to do it in small scale. How do we approach sustainability in the scale of a sofa?
And what was the effect?
Because then traditionally you have the upholstery and foam on the outside. This is what you can kind of touch and feel. But inside you have wood. You have wooden frame. And it's solid wood or plywood or chipboard. But it's always wood-related material. So the development team came up with the new proposal for construction. And instead of wood, which is again also very heavy, and if you think about transport and CO2 emission, all of this kind of counts. So instead of wood, there is how to explain it? Like polystyrene?
Yeah, polystyrene, yes.
Polystyrene. So we used expanded polypropylene, which is like a better version of polystyrene. So you have this ultra light.
Like in bean bags?
Yes, but it's black. Its color is black. It's not white, but black. And why polystyrene is a total hell in terms of sustainability. Expanded polypropylene already comes from recycling. So we have at least 20% of material that comes from recycling. And then it's 100% recyclable. It's durable, it's lightweight. So inside we have sort of puzzles. So we can add more puzzles, add more modules to have a longer sofa, or use just two to have a tiny one. And outside, we again have just like a thin pancake, a thin layer that sits on top that is creating the comfort. That's the foam. And this wrap principle for textile.
Congratulations.
It's without the NPD department in Profim. No, it's a team effort. You have technologists, you have technical guys, you have the company that supports and it takes part in this really huge decision that is not an easy business decision. and you have design team, and only together we can really make a difference. It's not a solo game anymore.
And what time period are you looking at from inception of a concept to manufacture?
If everything goes according to plan, 2 years, 2.5 up to 3. If something is really, really complicated, it can take even more. But we managed to do it in 2.5 years. So,
what would be a dream project for you to work on?
You know, that's a question that I get quite often, and I have to say, it changes. I think for me, it's getting less and less important how the product looks. So, like, aesthetics are not that important as ethics.
Good.
So I think
your starting point is always the ethics behind.
I try. You know, it's not always possible. I mean, not every customer I work with, not every company that I work with is ready, which doesn't mean that I'm going to say, oh, I'm not going to work with you because you're not there yet. It's the matter of education. And I think this is something that is super important to talk about it, so that people awareness is going to be, you know, higher and higher.
How would your team describe you?
Oh my God, that's a good question. I have no idea. I'm probably a little bit neurotic.
How so? How so?
No, I mean, that's a good question, but I think I'm not the best person to ask. You know, I have to ask them.
Are your team on call? Are they committed? Are they long days?
Yes, I mean, I have a fantastic team, and as I say, it is not a solo game. I'm the one who, you know, sometimes you have to do the monkey, you know, as my friends say. Yeah, you have to stand and present, and of course, I'm the face of the project. But behind me, there is a team of designers. There is a team in the studio that supports our daily work, and I'm very happy to go to work every morning. I have to say I feel really privileged to work with committed and responsible people who are also fun. And I hope they can say the same thing back, at least a little bit.
So when I asked you about your process, you talked about the ethics. I wonder, where else do you get inspiration from?
Culture, nature, accidents. You know, that's one of the reasons why I really appreciate teamwork. Very often we talk about some project, you know, we're in a research phase, and we brainstorm and we come up with tons of ideas, and then, you know, one person just explains, oh, look at that, and is trying to explain something, and the other one says, oh, I get it, and then the other person makes a drawing, and the first person says, oh, that's not what I meant, but it's so cool, yeah, let's do that. So I think it's the interaction. That's I think a huge part is the interaction. That's a huge part of the process.
And before we actually started filming this podcast, we had a little bit of a chat, and you mentioned to me that, you know, what exists in the marketplace already is a lot of objects.
Yes.
And there is really not a need for more objects. So if you're going to put something out in the market, it needs to make sense. I like that ethos. Add value.
You know, sometimes the business reason is enough. I mean, you have a huge factory, you employ 500 people, you have to give them work so that they can feed their families. And I understand this is a good enough reason. But if you have additional resources, if you have a huge scale, I think you have to take the step up and add another layer to your business activity.
Mm. Culturally, where do you find inspiration?
That's going to be such a cliche, but, you know, travels. I think our brains are constructed in a way that we find things that are different, that stand out. And if you are in your daily environment, you keep seeing same things every day. You kind of, you know, you're in a sleep mode, let's say. But if you go to a different culture, you look at architecture, different solutions. I mean, yeah, London, your brain immediately alerts because otherwise you get run over by a car, with a different traffic. So I think traveling is something that really gives me a kick. I, of course, love Italy.
You studied in Milan?
Yes, I had a fun and pleasure to study there and work for a little bit. And just a little door handle or another architectural detail, or a visit into a museum, or just a detail of a window. That's, I think, most of designer will give you the same answer. But I think this is what really gives us inspiration. And again, I think like every generation continues and reinterprets what has been done before, and it comes to back until the beginning of our culture. So of course I also look back at work of fantastic architects and designers that worked before me.
Any particular that you can note?
I actually, if I have to say about inspiration, and it is a constant inspiration and it's a modern one, I have to say that Patricia Urquiola was and still is a very important role model for me as one of very few female designers on the scene. So I could list, probably 20 names of fantastic guys that has been working, but everybody knows them. And of course, Patricia Urquiola is also a super famous designer. But I think the fact that let's say 20 years ago, I saw this female figure, gave me courage to do what I do.
Lovely, lovely. Maja, talk to me about the Polish design scene, because you're marking quite a groove.
To talk about that, I would have to take you back in time a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm 40. And I was born in Poland in 1981, in such a different reality that probably you wouldn't imagine. So somebody's idea was to place a country between Germany and Russia, which we know is not a good idea. So like after the Second World War, we unfortunately had unwanted visitors from the East, and Russia stayed until early 90s. Which was quite a difficult time for us, and especially the 80s, where we were living in the reality of a constant shortage. There were no goods. I mean, imagine you cannot go shopping because there is nothing in stores. So if you need furniture, like you can't just go out and buy furniture because the shelves are empty.
I mean, it's hard to believe. So as a child, you were walking into stores and there was nothing on the shelves.
Oh, we didn't go to stores because there was nothing on the shelves. So you had to get a tip that somewhere there's going to be something. And people were queuing for 20 hours in front of a store to get anything. And then whatever was there, you were buying it to trade for something that you actually needed.
And you were doing this as a child, or your parents?
My parents, of course. But that's now when people talk about, fixing things and swapping things and shared economy, I think this is an invention of a really wealthy society, because if you live in a society that is not wealthy, this is common sense. You share if you don't have enough.
You recycle, you renew.
Yeah. So let's say when we wanted to renovate the house and change furniture, my mom was trading furniture with her friends that had similar taste.
Great idea.
So every 2 years, the furniture were moving from house to house. And that's, the super innovative sharing economy models that we're having now, right? So that was my childhood. Then in the early 90s, when we gained freedom and of course, political freedom, but also economical freedom, people could, trade things in a free way and produce things in a free way, because before it was not possible. It was all regulated and it ended really bad. So, you have the 90s, the economy is booming. Everyone wants things because no one has anything. And the unfortunate fact is that it was the 90s with the aesthetics of the 90s. So imagine what was just a trend in a very, very stable society of, let's say, in the West, simplification, but let's use it. The aesthetics of the 90s were just a trend. But it was, the aesthetics of the new things that were available finally after 50 years of shortage.
For example, what was available finally?
I don't know, a sofa, a table, a chair, a shoe, clothes, food. I mean, absolutely everything.
So it must have been like a child in a sweet shop for the first time.
Yes.
Magic.
Yeah. So it like my first 20 years of life were very different. 10 years in a complete shortage. 10 years oh my God, this is new. Oh, we can get it. Let's get it. Of course, Poland was still not a wealthy country, but the aesthetics that came with and with the economical possibilities were the aesthetics of the 90s, which let's say left a mark, an imprint on people's taste. But still, in the 90s, if you were having, an idea for a business and you started producing literally anything, your business was just growing. So whoever started, I don't know, producing pickles in the 90s, today has a pickle empire. If someone started producing a chair, right now has a huge furniture business. But the thing is, it was not a matter of choice what you produce. It was that people wanted to produce and sell to make money. So in the West, if you are in the furniture business, it probably was a very conscious decision to go in this interior-related, trend-related market. In Poland, it was, I have a factory. I produce whatever. And 20 years later, it starts to occur that actually it matters how these things look. It matters that they are designed, copyright and stuff. So let's say I have graduated RCA 2008. I went back to Poland, and we were then at the moment of defining what design means, because this word design did not exist in the vocabulary. So it was a desert, which is a very positive thing if you are a designer in a country with 5 designers and 40 million people.
Yeah.
But it's also very challenging because you have this enormous production facilities. Poland is the 4th biggest furniture producer in the world. Enormous. And let's say 20 years back, no brands. So
that's quite an accomplishment in such a short space of time.
Yeah, but like that's the bizarre thing, that we have so much production and we had so little design. So everything what we can call Polish design is what we managed, what actually a generation of my colleagues and younger ones and a little bit older ones, but a really small group of people managed to accumulate within the last 10 years. In terms of what we managed to design and what our business partners, our clients managed to produce. So right now, I think we can talk about Polish design.
Yeah.
But that's, let's say, a recent thing. Before, it was a wishful thinking. Yes, we had designers. Yes, we had enormous production capacity in Poland. But the design scene was just, shaping itself. So
what a lovely piece of history to share. I had no idea. What's your saying? Do not harm. I read that in one of your bios.
I think if you work with huge companies, mass producers, you really have to think what are the consequences of what you do. So, for example, if you design a wooden chair and you use a section of a leg that is excessively thick, in result, you're gonna wipe a forest out of the surface of the earth. So I think that's my principle. I try not to do harm producing new objects, introducing new objects, because we don't really need anything new. We got everything, and we have too many.
Are there other ways that you bring sustainability into your life? We talked about food.
I try not to travel that much, actually. The pandemic changed it. And before, I have already practiced long distance development, let's say. I think during the pandemic, everyone understood that it is possible to develop a furniture long distance. We, for example, are launching a piece in Korea very soon. We've never managed to visit them because the entire project took place during the pandemic. So that's definitely, it's easier not to travel, and we know it's not necessary. I use car only when it's absolutely necessary. I mean, I don't think my humble existence can have such an impact, but in small choices every day, I try to, do no harm.
Lovely. Maja, it's been a pleasure speaking to you today. Thank you for your insights and teaching me so much about Poland that I never had a clue about.
Please come. We have really, really nice food. Warsaw is fun.
What's like the food that like?
Actually, okay, you have traditional Polish cuisine, which is quite heavy, a lot of meat, potatoes, and sauce. But then you have modern food scene, which is amazing. It's very fresh, local ingredients, very modern interpretation, and I mean, you have to really come and try. I think what happened. I mean, we have huge vegan scene, like in Warsaw. We're thinking, okay, so which vegan ramen we want to go for, yeah? Because like in this district, you have 2 vegan ramens, you have 2 vegan sushis, like insane. My favorite restaurant recently apologized for not having a vegan option on the menu during winter. And it's like, it's not a vegan restaurant, it's just a restaurant. So I think because our traditions were interrupted during the post-war history, there is a lot of free space, and it's filled up by young people with fresh ideas and open minds. And I think that is what is best about Poland right now.
Maja, thank you for trailblazing and for introducing and teaching me so much, and to all the listeners about Poland. Thank you.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you have loved today's podcast, do like and subscribe. We're going to be here every Monday with new, fresh guests. So join us then on the Designerati podcast. See you then.